ExactlyNo is a two-piece band. I mean, it's Nick on drums and it's me on guitar, and the biggest thing to figure out in that sort of setup is how to fill the sound space, like how to make sure that when you're playing live, it doesn't feel thin, it doesn't feel weak or small. And obviously with a drummer like Nick, he's covering a lot of sonic territory, like big bombastic drum parts. His drums are tuned to sound like drums. I mean, they fill the room. And so from a guitar perspective, I needed to be able to match that. I needed to be able to fill the room and make sure that we sounded nice and full. Otherwise you just end up with something, it sounds like a drummer and some noise, which some would argue that's what we are. But in the almost 30 years that I've been playing guitar, I've owned everything from modern stuff to vintage stuff, tube amp, solid state, you name it. And I never really had much of a purpose for building a rig. It was always like, oh, I'm part of a punk band, here's my combo, and I set it up, and the other four guys do their thing, and we're off to the races. But I really needed to construct something that was gonna live up to what our vision of the band was. The rig that I'm running right now is two Fender Tone Master deluxe reverbs as my guitar amps, and I'm running those. You could say it's a wet, dry, wet setup, which is an affected sound on the left, an affected sound on the right, and a clean channel in the middle, except that clean channel is actually just split evenly between the left and the right, so I'm kind of faking that. But it's a pretty convincing wet, dry, wet sound. It fills the stage nicely. I can use lots of stereo effects and kind of fill out that sound space. My bass cabs are custom with a K, deep 2x10s, and they're inexpensive, reliable, and they're loud, and they sound pretty good, but I don't need them to sound immaculate. I mean, I'm not playing a traditional bass, and I don't need some of the tonal characteristics that an actual bass player might need. I just need that low end to kind of get pushed out underneath the guitar. And then the bass amp that I'm using is a Fender Rumble 800, which I have kind of rigged up into my rack. I went through tons of iterations of different pedal boards, because what I'm trying to do is make a guitar sound like 2 or 3 or 4 different instruments. And I had this rat's nest of wires and everything on my pedal board, and then when COVID came around and all of our gigs got canceled and just had a lot of time to experiment, I started looking at some more of the digital effects. I was using an HX stomp and then ultimately 2 HX stomps on my pedal board, and then I thought, well, if I'm already going that route, why not just go to the Helix? So the Line 6 Helix is the sort of the flagship product of Line 6 for their multi-effects, and I think it was released in 2017, something like that. So it's an older product, but it still stands up today like just as well. I mean, the builds are amazing, the hardware itself is bulletproof. So where the Helix sort of stood apart for me was you've got infinite routing options in terms of input-output, and being able to take my 2 guitar outputs and route them through all the effects that I want to, and then out to the Helix in any way I choose, was really a game changer for how I thought about the live rig. I'm able to experiment with a lot of different effects and put things in different places in the signal chain, and to try to come up with characteristics that are individual on a song-by-song basis, but also like have that aesthetic of where I want a song to sit. If I want this to sound like a dark, kind of a murky metal sound, like I can do that. I don't need to go buy more pedals, things like that. So the whole idea is that my rack system has the Helix, the bass amp, it's got my in-ear monitor, mixer and amplifier, and then I've got a power conditioner in there, so that I just have to roll the rack in, plug in my amps and cabs, and go.